Man, oh man, oh man. It is your boy Rico from Street Scores. My voice is halfway gone. Coming to y'all with a quick reaction review of the game. We got to talk about a lot of stats. We got to talk about a lot of players. At the end of the day, a dub is a dub. Just to let y'all know, while I wasn't live streaming, I was there at the game. Got to meet some of y'all after the game, take some pictures and stuff like that. That was dope. Just to let y'all know, I will still be having a post-game live stream, but it will be tomorrow, as in Monday, instead of tonight. Again, my voice is pretty much gone. I got to do this review video. It's my obligation too. I got to get that done, but I got y'all tomorrow when I recover. I'm also going to come out with a nice video showing like the behind the scenes of everything that was going on with the game, us celebrating, us heartbroken in the middle of the game, all of that, us driving to the game, all of that type of, just a nice behind the scenes Street Scores going to the Falcons game type of video. So stay tuned for all of that. But before we dive into this review, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video like this one, man, I'm so happy we beat the Falcons in my city. We have not beat them since 2003. So thank goodness they went and got that dub again in Atlanta. I needed that. I could not let my team get embarrassed in front of everybody, all my friends and all of that, man. Thank goodness y'all pulled this one through. But without further ado, let's get to this review. Let's get it. Man, first of all, there were a lot of injuries. We got to see what this injury report looks like on Wednesday, and maybe Ron Rivera will answer some questions about him Monday. But like, boy, we were going through it because walking into the game, our inactives were already Dax Milne, Benjamin St-Juste with a concussion, Shaka Toney, Sadiq Charles, and Samus Reyes. Everybody but Benjamin St-Juste has already been inactive before, or was just inactive just because you can only have a certain amount of players active. Benjamin St-Juste was the only person that was just completely out because of injury. And of course, Curtis Samuel made his debut today, and he was big on some third downs, man. I'm so glad he was involved in the offense. One screen pass we threw to him was bad. It went nowhere. It actually lost yardage, but I'm glad that Scott Turner's trying to get him involved, and Taylor Heinicke even trusted to throw it to him, even with him not playing at all this season so far, getting him the ball on third downs and letting him make a play. It was beautiful. We truly missed him. That was important. But even just beyond that, I mean, we had injuries left and right. Logan Thomas went out like literally first drive of the game, and man, we missed him in some of those red zone possessions, man. We needed him big time. Maybe we even convert that 2-point conversion near the end of the game if we have Logan Thomas rather than Ricky Seals-Jones. Then De'Ami Brown was out. Sheriff ended up being out. And that leg injury scared me because he was on the field for a while. And I'm not sure if y'all can see this on the broadcast, watching it through TV or a stream or whatever. But like, normally when there's an injury, the guys just go to the sideline like, all right, he's all right. But what they were like, everybody on the team was on their knee looking at him while he was on the ground. I was really worried about that. Granted, I think he ended up walking off on his own to the tunnel. I believe so. I'm still not sure if he's going to be healthy enough to play this upcoming week against the Saints or anytime soon, but at least it's not a situation where he had to be carted off, because I think Trent Williams just a couple of minutes ago was carted off. Then Bostic got hurt. He was questionable. Cole Holcomb, first of all, that fumble return for a touchdown, they hated. The rest were hating big time. We're going to talk about the rest. But then like a couple of plays after, we're supposed to have that fumble recovery that he returned really far. A couple of plays after that, he ended up getting hurt. He would have never have gotten hurt. I think it was like his hand or his wrist or something. That never would have happened if the rest didn't cheat us. So Cole Holcomb got banged up a little bit, but he ended up finishing the game. And then you even had Cam Sims that was questionable, and he also got banged up. It was ugly. Terry McLaurin had to come out for a play. Luckily, he came right back in because, boy, we needed him. But, and I'm going to talk about this when I get to Taylor Heinicke. Overall, great game. He did a lot of things previous quarterbacks for us haven't been able to do. I mean, you can go back years on years on years. I wouldn't expect any of those guys, Kirk Cousins, anybody, to do what he did. So that's appreciated. And overall, again, he had a great game. But boy, he throws some hospital balls out there. That was the one gripe I've always had about Peyton Manning throughout his entire career. He threw guys into injuries. He would just throw a ball with an incoming defender ready to blow them up. and Taylor Heinicke was doing that a lot, including the Terry McLaurin play where he got hurt, where first of all, he threw the ball late. And that's also something we need to talk about. I'm going to talk about it when I get to Taylor Heinicke, but I've been saying this for months. Even before he was starting this season, even when Ryan Fitzpatrick was the assumed starter going into week 1 before he got hurt, I've been saying Taylor Heinicke is not the most mobile guy, and also most importantly, he doesn't have a strong arm. Strong enough to make some of the throws, but with his lack of athleticism, with his lack of arm strength, he's limited. He has to see things before they happen. He has to see a receiver's going to be open before they're open, because he's not Justin Herbert, he's not Josh Allen, he's not Pat Mahomes, a few of these other quarterbacks. They can see a guy open, and they have so much arm strength that they can just zip it to him real quick before the coverage locks down. Taylor Heinicke doesn't have that luxury. Once he sees somebody's open, it's usually too late, and that Terry McLaurin injury play is a perfect example of that. But again, at the end of the day, talk about Taylor Heinicke a little later, but man, he ended up having a great day overall, but there were a lot of things to nitpick there, I'm not gonna lie. But man, that game was ugly, and we actually started decent. Of course, the defense was out here just giving up points like nobody's business, but Fabian Moreau, ex-Burgundy and Gold player, started the game off with 2 penalties. And that first half ended up being so ugly, between the refs cheating us, with the defense playing as poorly as they were. I mean, another third down debacle. I mean, the Falcons have had one of the worst third down defenses and offenses in the NFL coming into this game, and we just outmatched them in the game. Going into halftime, 3rd and 8, 33rd yard defensive pass interference. 3rd and 5, 8-yard first down. 3rd and 13, 17-yard first down, and then 3rd and 14, 12-yard touchdown. Third downs are still a huge problem for this team, both offense and defense. The defense situation is worse, but the offense on third downs is bad as well. Luckily, they clutched up at the end, though. And it's just like, I mean, at the end of the day, again, we won, and I don't want to be pessimistic. I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but like, we were struggling against Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley and friends. I mean, Kyle Pitts contributed a little bit, and it's still amazing that Cordarrelle Patterson is the best player on the Falcons right now, but Matt Ryan is a shell of himself. There was some plays where he just completely missed the receiver, and the Matt Ryan of like 3-4 years ago would have made that throw. And then the receivers also were covering themselves better than our secondary was. They were dropping passes for no reason in a lot of situations, even though one drop pass was a great play by Bobby McCain working in from the free safety spot. But generally, the Falcons receivers stopped themselves. But my big worry, my general point that I'm trying to make is, this is Matt Ryan, who's a shell of himself. What's going to happen when we go against Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Dak Prescott twice? So I'm really worried about this defense, because this defense has to get it together. They have to before we go against these guys. Otherwise, our games are going to look more like that Bills game rather than that Giants game, this Falcons game, and even that Chargers game where we barely lost. But at the end of the day, I mean, this defense, I'm definitely starting to think that it was the product of who we played last year. Yeah, I think this defense seemed like it was a top 3 defense because we went against guys like Ben DiNucci, Andy Dalton, Nick Mullins. Now we got to go against those quarterbacks I just named. Even Derek Carr is going to be a problem when we play them. I mean, going into halftime, we allowed the Falcons to convert 5 of 8 third downs. That's ridiculous. And we gave up more than 200 yards of offense within the first half. It was horrible going into halftime. I'm not going to lie. And we just gave up play after play after play. And this was like our worst tackling game in a long time. We probably had the worst tackling performance out of the NFL this whole weekend, and the other games haven't even played yet. I'm just going to assume we will, because this was terrible. This was absolutely horrible. It's crazy too, because PFF Sam pointed out that we were actually one of the 3 best tackling teams in the NFL. So it was like, once we don't tackle well, we're going to have one of the worst defensive performances in the NFL in a game this season. And then today was that day when we finally weren't a top 3 tackling team. We were a bottom 3 tackling team, and then you saw all of those touchdowns come from it. I mean, there were literally at least 2 touchdowns that were the direct result of bad tackling, where they should have been stopped well before the touchdown, and they were able to just break all kinds of tackles. Cordarrelle Patterson, Mike Davis each had one at least. It was bad. But yeah, man, going into halftime, it was ugly. I mean, I wasn't convinced that we were gonna lose, but boy, I was not confident in our chances coming back. I felt like we did it against the Giants. We could definitely do it against the Falcons. But boy, I mean, going into halftime, Atlanta before this game was 28th in the NFL in yards per game, averaging 301.3 yards. By halftime, they already had 205. They were 26th in the NFL on third downs with a 33.3% conversion rate, and they were 5 of 8 again going into the halftime. They were 27th in scoring with 16 points per game, already had 7 again by halftime. So it looked like the Falcons were having their best offensive game all season against us. I don't know how we ended up winning this game. It's just crazy. Like, it was so many odds stacked against us. Again, the refs hate it. We're going to get to that. I'm kind of going in chronological order from my notes right now. That's why it's a little here and there right now. But also to note, at halftime, Heinicke was 10 of 13 for 111 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions. He finished the game with no interceptions as well, even though some of those passes should have been intercepted. Gibson had 9 carries for 38 yards and a touchdown. Montez Sweat had 2 tackles and an 8-yard sack. And Holcomb was leading the team with 7 tackles. And this was Holcomb's best game of the season by far, not even close. It wasn't like a great game, but this was definitely the best I've seen from him. I got to go back and look at the All-22 to see if he made some mistakes that I'm just not aware of. But every time I noticed him on the field, he was making a good play. And at the end of the day, man, speaking of making plays, guys just got to make plays. The way the tackling was today, you can still blame Jack Del Rio for a lot of our problems, but even like I've been saying the past couple of weeks, at the end of the day, guys need to go make plays. And this tackling today, you cannot blame on Jack Del Rio. That's just on the players. Again, there's a lot of blame to go around, especially on Jack Del Rio's end as far as scheming goes, but at the end of the day, guys need to make plays. And Jack Del Rio switched it up a lot. We ran zone, was getting beat in coverage. We ran man, was getting beat in coverage. It wasn't even rub routes. It was just straight up 1v1 man coverage, getting beat often. So it's just at the end of the day, again, we can blame Jack Del Rio. And again, I'm going to keep saying it. A lot of it is his fault. But at the end of the day, our players just weren't playing well at all. They haven't been playing well all season, really. They haven't been playing as a cohesive unit. One guy may make a good play this play, and then the next play he makes a bad play, or the same play that a couple of guys are in the right position and doing the right thing. These guys aren't doing the right thing in the same play. You know, it's just never been a cohesive, all 11 guys are making a good play at the same time. And again, Cordarrelle Patterson was killing us. I'm sick having him in fantasy leagues, didn't start him because I had a little bit of faith on our defense. But for now on, I'm not gonna lie, I'm officially in the business of starting opposing offensive players when we play them. Oh, we play the Saints next week. Oh, let me go ahead and try to get Marquez Callaway and Jameis Winston. Oh, we play the Chiefs. Oh, yeah, let me go ahead, see what I can do about getting even McCole Hardman, Clyde Edwards-Helaire if he's somehow available. You know what I'm saying? It's getting to that point. Even when we win, even though the defense makes clutch stops at the end when we need them, throughout that game, somebody's about to go stupid in fantasy. It always seems like whenever we play a team, somebody's having their best game ever. They're setting a record. Remember Drew Brees setting his record a couple of years ago? It's always us. It just seems like this is the most receptions, yards, touchdowns this guy has ever had in his career. It seems like it's always against us. It's weird. It's crazy. I mean, this man Cordarrelle Patterson has just been going from team to team, just getting tossed around. He looked like a Hall of Famer against us. He had 3 touchdowns on my fantasy bench. I'm still sick about that. But again, that was just me having faith in our defense. And going forward, I still have faith that we can win games. Dallas looks really tough, but I still believe in us possibly winning this division if we can just get everything right. That's a big if, though. That's if we can actually perform to the level of talent that we have on this team. And now let's talk about Dustin Hopkins, man. 2 missed extra points. What are you doing? How? We have no faith in you. Gotta go. I don't care. You gotta go. Because at the end of the day, you saw at the end of that game, if we didn't get that J.D Mckessic touchdown from Taylor Heinicke at the end where they had to review it, just think about it. If we ended up kicking a field goal right there and going up less than 3 points, the way the Falcons just drove down the field on our defense right there, and then ended up just having to throw that heave at the end where we won the game, they would have just easily have kicked the field goal and won the game. And that's even if Dustin Hopkins would have made that kick. I noticed it during the game live watching it. We were at like the 30-something yard line. Most teams don't even go for the touchdown. With the dependable defense and a dependable kicker, the Buccaneers, when they went against the Cowboys, were in the same situation. They started just throwing the ball out of bounds because they just wanted to just run out the clock as much as possible and then just kick the game-winning field goal. We can't do that. Ignoring even the defense, and we were able to just run the ball and run the clock out We don't have any confidence at the 30-yard line for our kicker to hit the game-winning field goal and put the game away. We just don't. So we have to play for the touchdown. That is terrible. That's unacceptable. Justin Tucker, he's an anomaly, but he made a 66-yard field goal last week. I'm scared to even throw our kicker out here at the 30-yard line, and we clearly were too, because that's why you're passing the ball. Most teams run out the clock. They may even take a knee, whatever they got to do to waste time so they can get their kicker in position to go ahead and kick the game-winning field goal. We have no faith in our kicker, so we're out here playing for touchdown, and we shouldn't have to do that. I'm glad we did, because who knows what Dustin Hopkins would have done with that game winner. We already saw he missed the Giants one. We got blessed by the offsides and he ended up making the next one. But 30-yard line should be like, oh yeah, we're in field goal range, we're good. Not us. No, sir, not with Dustin Hopkins. And then if you also think about it, that 2-point conversion that we went for and ended up failing, and then like it was a penalty on our side, a penalty on their side, and then we ended up not getting it. We shouldn't even have to go for that. At the time, before the 2-point conversion, we were down 2. If Dustin Hopkins makes his 2 extra points, we're tied up. We just kick our PAT and go up 1 point right there. But no, Dustin Hopkins wants to be terrible, so it changes up the whole strategy of the game for us. And then it's a dome. Granted, the dome was open, but it was open because there was no inclement weather. There was no wind, there was no rain, there was no nothing. The seats weren't filled, so it wasn't even that much breath. There's no excuse for why he's missing PATs, bro. It's literally no excuse. But man, speaking of special teams, shouts out to DeAndre Carter. I've been telling y'all for a couple of weeks, DeAndre Carter's gonna break one. He's gonna get one, and it'll be perfect for him to do it against the Atlanta Falcons, because I'm pretty sure we're gonna need it. Guess what? We needed it, and he did it. Man, that return was so beautiful, especially live. I was literally just talking to my cousin about it. I was like, hey man, DeAndre, we need this kick, and watch him return it. Literally 10 seconds later, he's running down the field, everybody behind him. I was so amazed. And then that was also one of the Dustin Hopkins missed PATs, and we were dying laughing and really upset at the same time. But it's just one of those things you gotta laugh off, because we were talking about basically how if you're DeAndre Hopkins, you just ran a 101-yard kick, did the impossible. You did the hard part. We did the hard part, and then we missed the easy PAT. I'm cussing out Dustin Hopkins on the sideline if I'm DeAndre Carter. I'm out there running for my life, and you can't even make a PAT. So I mean, that was just crazy in itself. And that's also crazy too, because DeAndre Carter is a really good punter and is, you know, well known as a good punter around the NFL, but that was his first touchdown in the NFL. And we really needed that. That was a momentum shift. It was a lot. It was points that we needed. We barely won the game. We really needed that kickback, man. That we lose the game if DeAndre Carter doesn't do that. I'm telling you. Also, by halftime, Terry McLaurin already, again by halftime, took 4th place all time amongst receivers in NFL history with 60 or more yards in their first 33 career games, with 23, tied with Odell, Julio, Michael Thomas, and of course Terry McLaurin 4th. And again, that call, the non-fumble, was crazy. They just blew the play dead extra quick for no reason. That was literally a fumble. We should have had the ball in scoring range, and instead of us scoring 7 points, they ended up getting 7 points. That was like the dumbest. I know the refs been hating on us, and we've been complaining about them all season. We've been complaining about them for years now, actually, how the refs are always on the other team's side. We always get one-sided calls in a bad way. Refs just, it's always us versus the opponent and the refs. It just seems like, I don't know, the league hates Dan Snyder. I don't know what the memo is that goes out in the email. Remember, refs, your referees for the Burgundy and Gold game today, make sure you hate on them. But like today was probably the worst of it. The Chase Young call was crazy. We're going to get to that again because I'm just kind of going in chronological order, even though I'm bouncing around still. But that call where they called the quick whistle, and then of course you can't review it because when you're looking at the replay, you can't hear a whistle in it. So that's not even reviewable. So the refs hate it by not just going ahead and giving us the call on the field. And then you review whether or not it was a fumble with the call on the field being a fumble. Instead, some ref got gun happy and blew the whistle for no reason super quick. I've never seen a ref call a whistle that quick on a tackle. We didn't even tackle him. He wasn't on the ground. We were holding him up and we stripped him immediately. It wasn't even like he was there for like 3 seconds. I'm confused. And then later on in the game, when the Falcons tried to do that against us, they held their whistle extra long, and while the Falcons were trying to strip it out of them. Granted, they ended up not doing it and the refs called the whistle, but they called it way later when we had the ball, and they called it way quicker when they had the ball. I'm so confused, bro. I mean, it's just so one-sided and so blatant and so obvious. It's crazy. Again, I don't want to keep blaming the refs because at the end of the day, if we're the better team, even with the refs hating, we should still win, which we did today. We still ended up winning even with the refs being one-sided, but it's blatant. The refs are one-sided. Again, I don't know what we did wrong, but it's bad. And then, boy, Kendall Fuller was getting cooked out there. He had like maybe 1 or 2 good plays. Other than that, he was getting killed. Cordarrelle Patterson was eating him up for a touchdown. And it was crazy too, because it was 3rd and 13. Fuller gave up a touchdown, which is just ridiculous in itself, how bad our 3rd down defense is. Not only did they convert that 3rd down, but they got a touchdown out of it. And then the subsequent play, Jonathan Allen broke up a pass like he was a DB. Was Jonathan Allen our best DB today? Was he literally our best coverage guy? First of all, why was he even in coverage? And then the fact that it actually worked out makes Jack Del Rio look like a genius for that one play. And you got to remember, though, Jonathan Allen, I'm not sure a lot of people know this. You know, I'm big on recruiting. So, like, I watch where people go from high school to college to NFL, all of that. I don't just do NFL. I do college, I do high school, all of that. I'm a big Georgia fan. Jonathan Allen was an off-ball linebacker when he first went to Alabama. Then he gained weight and moved to edge rusher. And then when he got drafted into the NFL, he moved to interior defensive lineman. But he was an off-ball linebacker at some point in his life. So it's not far-fetched. But nah, that's still ridiculous. There's no way Jonathan Allen probably had the best coverage play out of any of our corners and safeties all game. That was ridiculous. Because that was actually like really good. It wasn't even like Jonathan Allen just happened to be there, the receiver dropped it. No, it was literally like a pass defense type of thing. Like, he really made a play out there. So that was crazy in itself. And even like the Kendall Fuller play, 3rd and 13, ended up being a touchdown for Cordarrelle Patterson on the side of the end zone. Jon Bostic was lined up man-to-man on Calvin Ridley. I remember looking at that and screaming like, no, there's no way, Jack Del Rio, there's no way. They ended up not throwing it to him, so I exhaled. I was like, ooh, they're not throwing it to Jon Bostic. Calvin Ridley versus Jon Bostic, their best receiver versus our worst coverage linebacker, our worst coverage player, period, probably. Because even Jonathan Allen's better in coverage than him now, clearly, for some reason. So I excelled. I was like, ooh, they're not looking at Calvin Ridley. Next thing I know is Kendall Fuller getting beat bad by Cordarrelle Patterson. So it was just like, man, they might as well have thrown it to Calvin Ridley versus Jon Bostic. That was the mismatch of the century. They didn't even take it. That just shows how bad the Falcons are at execution and coaching. You should see Calvin Ridley lined up man-to-man coverage against Jon Bostic, and that's literally automatic 6 points. I don't know why Matt Ryam didn't look at him. And at that point, should have been 21-23. But it was 19-23 because Dustin Hopkins is just out here selling. Again, I don't know how we keep him as our kicker going into next week. There's no excuses for these. And also at that point, Atlanta was 7 of 10 on 3rd downs. That is atrocious. That's literally worst defense in the NFL right there. Literally. And that's not even the first downs they got from penalties as well. That was 7 of 10 on 3rd downs with them actually just getting it themselves with yards. It's just ridiculous. And then later on, there was like a 3rd and 3 where we were clearly in man coverage and nobody was even over the tight end. Like, there was literally nobody over the tight end. He was literally uncovered. We're clearly in man coverage. Everybody has a man. Everybody's helmet to helmet except for the tight end. All there is just a single high free safety. I'm assuming it's Bobby McCain. Like, what's going on, Jack Del Rio, right there? Bro, 7 of 10 of 3rd downs is crazy. Because, again, the Falcons were the 26th best 3rd down offense in the NFL, and we allowed them to go 7 of 10. I can't even imagine what the Chiefs are going to do. And then you have Scott Turner. Overall, a good game called. I have to watch the All-22 to confirm it. He was able to take advantage of mismatches. He was hitting Terry McLaurin often. Logan Thomas wasn't in the game, so that's why he wasn't getting hit. And, I mean, most importantly, as you've noticed, I'm not sure if y'all have noticed, I hope other people have noticed, but when J.D Mckessic is heavily involved in our offense, it just seems like we win games. Both the Chargers game, the Bills game, J.D Mckessic wasn't heavily involved in the offense. Granted, he actually got a little bit more running plays against the Bills than normal, but as far as in the passing game, he wasn't as involved as he was against the Giants and the Falcons in those Chargers and Bills games. You can notice the games he's not involved in, lose. The games he's heavily involved in, we win. Granted, there's a lot of other factors included, but J.D Mckessic matters. But man, Heinicke had a big up and down game, bro. He was throwing some straight up, should have been picks. He was throwing to receivers, and Antonio Gibson, the play he got hurt, straight up just hospital ball, just set him up to get blasted by the defender. He was doing that all game. Again, the Terry McLaurin play where he was banged up and had to come out for a play. Bad throw by Taylor Heinicke. But like I've been saying for months now, you got to take the good, the bad, and the lucky, because he gets lucky a lot. Remember the Chargers game, that pass to Terry McLaurin, that was amazing. The pass was terrible. It was late. It was inaccurate. It was underthrown. It was just so bad, and somehow Terry McLaurin came up with it. So those are the lucky plays. He had some lucky plays against the Giants as well. So you got to live with the great that played to J.D Mckessic to win the game. A lot of throws in that game were excellent. A lot of reads, him making plays on the run, picking up first downs with his legs. And then you also got to live with the bad where he's setting up your receivers and running backs to get blasted and hurt. And also, there were so many passes that should have been intercepted. I know I've said this before, but like I want to emphasize it. There was so many passes. Even though he didn't have an interception in that game, there were at least 3 to 4 passes that should have been intercepted. But that's why corners don't play receiver. A lot of corners are guys that wanted to play receiver. They couldn't catch. They ended up playing DB, and that's where they are now. And then also back to Scott Turner. I mean, we had a 3rd and 2 play. First of all, we passed the ball, and there were 2 receivers in the same spot. So I'm not sure if that was Scott Turner or if one of the receivers was out of place and was somewhere where he shouldn't have been. I'm just going to assume it was Scott Turner. What are you doing? And also on that 3rd and 2, why not run the ball with Antonio Gibson? This is another game where they really can't stop Antonio Gibson when we try to run the ball. I believe there was like 1 or 2 plays, 3rd and short or something like that, where we tried to run it with him and he didn't get it. But still, 3rd and 2, you got to have faith in him, because that Giants game, as you remember, right before Taylor Heinicke threw that terrible interception to James Bradbury, that man Antonio Gibson made like 5 people miss for an 11-yard first down. He should not have gotten it. It literally should have been a 1-yard gain at max. So you got to have more trust in him. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. And even though Bobby McCain got beat a couple of times, one of those deep balls that Matt Ryam threw, man, we're so lucky that he got there and broke that up, because that could have been the end of the game as well. Even though it was still in like the middle of the game, kind of near the end, and there was still a lot of time left on the clock, if the Falcons would have completed that pass and ended up scoring a touchdown, completely different game. And also, Terry McLaurin balling out. I've already talked about him quite a bit, but he's literally our best player on our team. Not just our best offensive player, he's the best player on this team, and we do not deserve him. Again, those medicine balls that Taylor Heinicke was throwing to try to get him hurt was crazy, but at least he was targeting him and spamming Terry McLaurin as much as he could. I'm happy about the targets he got and the plays he made. And then, obviously, I hope nobody thought Calvin Ridley was better than Terry McLaurin. After this game, you know for a fact he's at least better than him. I still think Terry McLaurin's easily a top 10 receiver, but some people think Calvin Ridley was even better than Terry McLaurin, and you saw from some obvious drops by Calvin Ridley and some great plays by Terry McLaurin that they are in different tiers, period. And then back to the refs, again, kind of going in chronological order. That Chase Young pass interference call was crazy. What was that? First of all, I'm mad at Chase Young for not hitting them harder. Why did you just patty cake with him and allow him to still get that throw off? You know what I'm saying? I guess he assumed Matt Ryam was throwing it as he hit him, because that's usually what happens when a defensive lineman is running at a quarterback. Normally they're trying to get rid of it as they're getting hit. And I think Chase Young, since he was just running free at him, he just assumed that Matt Ryam would just go ahead and get rid of it. Matt Ryam actually held on to the ball. Should have been an easy sack. And then the refs called roughing the passer on that. And I'm almost sure the Falcons ended up scoring 7 points on that drive as well. So the refs were doing whatever they could to keep the Falcons in the game, because they were bailing them out. I mean, there were at least 14 points that they scored and potentially 10 to 14 points we should have scored that the refs just completely hated on one-sided calls. We honestly should have blown them out, even with as bad as our defense was and how much we were poorly executing on offense at times. The refs literally made that a game. And then moving on to that one play where everybody missed the tackle. First it was John Bostic, looking terrible, of course. Then it was Kendall Fuller, also having a bad game. Daron Payne then missed the next tackle, and Daron Payne was having a great game overall, but that play was terrible. And then you had Bobby McCain miss the tackle, and then the Falcons go up 30-2. And that's when it looks like the game is pretty much over. Still, granted, a lot of time left. I believe it was like 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter at that point. But it was just like, we're struggling on offense. We're beating ourselves, can't convert our own third downs. And our defense can't stop them on third downs. So with us down 8 points with 10 minutes to go, even though that is a lot of time to end up winning this game, and we ended up doing it. But it's just like, what is there to tell me that we're actually going to make this comeback? I mean, again, with those missed tackles on that Mike Davis touchdown, that was crazy. They made Mike Davis look like LaDainian Tomlinson out there. I mean, we like literally couldn't tackle him to save our lives on that play. That was crazy. I mean, he shouldn't have even gotten more than 2 yards on that play, let alone a first down, let alone a touchdown. That was, whew, our tackling was terrible today. Again, we've been one of the top 3 tackling teams in the NFL. I believe we might have been number 1 or number 2 at least. But today was like one of the worst tackling performances I've ever seen from an NFL team. It was, whew. Jon Bostic, this is probably his worst game, honestly. Coverage, tackling, everything. It was bad. I didn't think he could outdo himself in a bad way, but he did. It's crazy that we walked in here thinking, at the very minimum, top 10 defense. Some people, even outside of burgundy and gold fandom, like analysts at NFL Network, ESPN, were predicting us to potentially even have the best defense in the NFL. And now it looks like we may literally have the 32nd, the worst. At the highest, somewhere in the 20s, at the very highest right now. Honestly, we are playing like the worst defense. We're not the least talented defense at all. We have top 5 talent on paper. They're just not going out there and doing it. But also, again, there's the point that our schedule last year was easy. Our schedule this year is the hardest in the NFL after this Falcons game. So it's just like, our defense, it's time for y'all to show us if y'all are real or not. And then, like, shortly after that, Taylor Heinicke's out here staring down receivers. So, of course, the Falcons were able to make plays on the ball and force incompletions. And then we needed 3 yards on a 3rd down when we're trying to gain momentum and put some points up on the board while we're down 8. And that man Scott Turner calls a play where J.D Mckessic gets the ball in behind the line of scrimmage. And then Fabian Moreau goes out there and makes a great tackle. Shows our defensive back, shows our linebackers how a corner should tackle, how a defender should tackle in general. It was crazy how, like, back-to-back it was. We out here missing 4 tackles in one play. Fabian Moreau, who we let go, makes a great clutch tackle that almost was a game-winning tackle. I mean, stopping us on 3rd down like that open field tackle on J.D Mckessic was huge at the time. I mean, it's even crazy just the fact that the Falcons had 30 points and we were barely even in the 4th quarter. Again, this is a team averaging 16 points per game. Scott Turner, I mean, again, overall, I wouldn't say overall he had a great play calling game, but at times he made some great play calls. But like, bruh, the Falcons had a 10+ touchdown drive that took up at least 5 minutes. And then immediately after that, we get on offense, 2 screen passes, and a halfback dive. Like, what kind of mess is that? But even though, sadly, our defense looks as bad as it does, we really missed Benjamin St-Juste this game, which shows you that Benjamin St-Juste matters. He's good. And Jamin Davis also looked pretty good out there. Jon Bostic was easily the worst player out of our linebacker group today. Jamin Davis got beat a couple of times, I remember, in coverage, but generally, he played a pretty good game. First of all, he just looks better and faster. He just looks more confident out there. He doesn't look like he's hesitating as much. It looks like he makes up his mind, usually making the right decision now, and is making plays. So I'm really happy about Jamin Davis. Cole Holcomb, again, this was his most inspiring game of the season. This is the best he's looked, so that's good to know moving forward. But Jon Bostic, bro, just as bad as ever, if not worse today, bro. Also, Lake Lewis had a good point that he pointed out. While we were down 8, he said that it's not even just how bad we've been on defense and our inability to stay on the field on offense as well, but like even the body language on the players looks bad. Last year, we were looking like we were having fun. When guys made plays, we were celebrating. And even when we had a bad play, you had guys cheering each other up like, we still got this. We can win this game, no problem. But when we were making bad plays today, guys just looked dejected, helmets down, nobody coming to talk to them. They just walk on the sideline lonely, moping and all of that. It just looks weird. Our body language is definitely off this year. And then it was funny too, because at some point while we were down still by 8 points, people were already photoshopping Malik Willis in a burgundy and gold jerseys, a Washington football team jersey. Granted, by the time we draft, we will not be the Washington football team. Who knows what we'll be by then? But I just thought that was hilarious. Y'all already know. If we end up drafting Malik Willis, I'm going to be the happiest burgundy and gold fan y'all know. Nobody will be happier about Malik Willis going to the burgundy and gold than me, because it's really personal. Same high school, just like Cam Newton, Adam Pac-Man Jones, Southwest Atlanta, Westlake High School. Like, I mean, if I can get somebody from Westlake to be my franchise quarterback, and I think he's gonna end up being really good, I don't think y'all understand. Y'all will be happy because we'll have a franchise quarterback, but there's a whole nother layer to it for me, because that's straight Atlanta. Again, not even just Atlanta, Southwest Atlanta, not just Southwest Atlanta, same high school, same area, all of that, bro. I would be ecstatic, but that's for another discussion. We're not going to talk too much Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, Carson Strong, all of those guys that I really like right now. We'll get to that later, because right now we're still 2-2, even though it's not easy to be optimistic about this team because the schedule only gets way harder. But at the end of the day, we're 2-2. We're still in it, only 1 game behind Dallas. So I'm going to leave all of that talk for later. We could talk about it maybe in a live stream, but not in videos. And then shortly after that was the Taylor Heinicke to Antonio Gibson setting them up to get hit real hard play. So, I mean, I was really sad about that. You had Antonio Gibson down. He ended up coming back, but he was already hurt before getting into the game. He had a shoulder injury he was dealing with previously. He had a shin injury. They had him questionable for this game. And then Taylor Heinicke wants to go out there and throw him a hospital ball. But again, Taylor Heinicke was making plays, man. I mean, getting first downs with his legs often when we needed it most, man. And then he's a really good slider too. That's really underrated. Remember, RG3 was a terrible slider. He would get all of those yards, and even when nobody touched him, he would pretty much tackle himself and hurt himself because he was just a terrible slider. Taylor Heinicke has a really smooth slide. But then shortly afterwards was the Taylor Heinicke lack of arm strength coming up. You got to see guys open before they're open because you don't have the arm strength to get it there immediately. And then Terry McLaurin had one of the best plays I've ever seen from a receiver. There's no reason he should have had that catch for that touchdown that put us within range to make this comeback. There's no reason. I mean, Taylor Heinicke, that was a terrible throw. Let's talk about that. I was talking about that in real life. I was like, man, Terry McLaurin, thank you. You are heaven sent. We don't deserve you. This organization really doesn't deserve you. But that throw was terrible, Taylor Heinicke. I mean, at the end of the day, he's putting it up there, letting his guys make a play, and I prefer that than for him to take a sack. But, like, that was a really bad throw. Like, we cannot congratulate Taylor Heinicke for that at all. That was pure Terry McLaurin. That should not have been completed. Terry McLaurin is just a god. He's easily top 10 receiver. I'm tired of seeing people say that he's not, because he clearly is. So, Taylor Heinicke, thank you for making that throw, but don't ever do it again. In those 2-point conversion situations, Cosmi had that false start, but you can't even be too mad at him because the clock hit 0. So he was kind of like, bro, we got to move. Like, we need to call this play. So I don't know. Sometimes the refs give you a little leeway, so I can blame Samuel Cosmi for that. But at the end of the day, we were just not ready to call the play. And Samuel Cosmi's looking at the clock like, it's 0. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not mad at Samuel Cosmi for that false start. And we ended up getting it back anyway because I think the Falcons were offsides. And then we ended up not getting the 2-point conversion anyway. And then I was annoyed too. I hate the way the rules are set up because we lost 5 yards because of the false start. But then we did halfway to the goal line after the Falcons got their penalty, so we ended up being on the 3.5 yard line rather than the 2 where we initially were, even though both of those are technically 5-yard penalties that should cancel out. It's just the way the NFL rules are set up. And again, like I said earlier, at that point, after that Terry McLaurin touchdown, we were going for 2. We shouldn't have had to go for 2. Instead of being down 28-30 trying to tie it up, it should have been 30-30, and we should have just kicked the extra point to go up 31-30. I mean, we had 3 turnovers this game that the refs literally just took away from us for no reason. Refs just hating. I just don't understand. And also, we got to talk about it, bro. Shouts out to the offensive line, man. Speaking of Samuel Cosmi, man, the offensive line has been literally one of our very few bright spots this season. Who knew walking into this season that our offensive line would be great and our defensive line would be struggling? If anything, maybe the other way around. And I came into this season optimistic about the offensive line. I kept debating against people. I'm like, our offensive line is actually really talented. There may be some chemistry issues early on, but I like what I've seen from Samuel Cosmi, especially in the preseason and what he did in practice in the offseason going against Chase Young and Montez Sweat. So I was already like, I was optimistic about our offensive line. I thought our offensive line would be good, but they've even outperformed my expectations. I was already high on them. I was already one of the people that was the highest on them. And then, man, I don't know how we allowed the Falcons to move that ball that quickly up the field. I mean, Matt Ryam ran for like 20-something yards on one play. Like, how? It was like 36 seconds when they started that drive or somewhere around there, less than 40 seconds. And they ended up moving the ball all the way down the field to get in the field goal range. Again, if we didn't get that touchdown with J.D Mckessic, and that was I'm sorry for skipping over that play. Because that Taylor Heinicke to J.D Mckessic play was great on the offensive line. It was great on Taylor Heinicke. And then J.D Mckessic to do what he did, man. We needed that because, again, like I said earlier, if we kicked that field goal with the way our defense was set up this game, the Falcons probably just come down there and kick a field goal because they got in the field goal range and they win that game. So luckily we scored a touchdown on that play because, first of all, I'm not even sure if Dustin Hopkins would have made the field goal for us to take the lead in the first place. But then even beyond that, you saw the defense fold under pressure and allowed them to march all the way down the field to actually get a pretty decent playoff. It ended up being a Hail Mary pass and just throw it up there, see who comes down with it. But they were definitely in field goal range, and if we ended up kicking a field goal instead of getting a touchdown on that drive, we lose the game. Because Young Ho Koo is not missing that kick. They actually have a good kicker. We don't. And then Bobby McCain has the nerve in the press conference after the game. I have to talk about this. This video's almost over, but like, this is just me really just pouring out my emotions and thoughts. But like he said, quote, when we start balling and we start playing our A words off. I want y'all to write the same S word you're writing right now, unquote. So basically saying, oh yeah, y'all been on our head and how bad we've been playing, but when we start playing well, don't come back crawling to us. Be with us when we suck and be with us when we're great. But bro, Bobby McCain, y'all still aren't good. Like, the defense still isn't good. You're saying this like we won the game 30-10 or something, 30-7. Y'all still allowed the Falcons to score over 30 points, a 16-point per game team again. I keep saying it, but I need to emphasize that. So where's this, oh, y'all didn't love me back then, don't love me now talk coming from? Y'all still not good now. And even if y'all had a great game today, say we won today 30-3, that still doesn't make sense because y'all deserve all of the hate that y'all been getting all season. Granted, if, again, hypothetically, they had a great defensive day today, that doesn't excuse the terrible performances the previous 3 games. But even then, they were terrible today, so that makes that quote make even less sense. So let's just, you know, when y'all do it, okay, then you can talk. Maybe when y'all do it, but y'all still haven't even done it. And even then, when y'all do it, it's late. Y'all was supposed to be a top 3 defense this year, at the very least top 10. Y'all have been in the late 20s, arguably the worst defense in the NFL so far this season. Also, shouts out to Daron Payne. On that Matt Ryam run, he was holding them down, which allowed the clock to run out more. And then when they ended up spiking the ball, they only had 1 second left. They almost didn't get that off in time. So shouts out to Daron Payne for that very savvy heads-up play right there to hold on to Matt Ryan just a little bit. Not enough to cause a penalty, but enough for them to barely spike that ball in time to throw that Hail Mary. And then thank goodness Jonathan Allen in his presser was completely honest. He said, quote, not much left to say. We just have to do better. Even after a dub, you have to realize when you're not good. And just generally, man, our defense is bad in general, but like literally like one of the worst of all time as far as third downs go. Our kicker cannot be trusted worth nothing. And the offense isn't great, but they've been good enough at times, and they make plays when we need them at times. Because even in that Bills game, we went down by a lot, but like the way we drove down the field and went from 21-0 to 21-14, our offense can make plays when we need them. The defense just has to not give up 40 points a game. But shouts out to Taylor Heinicke, man. Him going back to his hometown of Atlanta. Shouts out Jamin Davis, Antonio Gibson, Montez Sweat, and Taylor Heinicke doing what they did today in their hometown, but especially Taylor Heinicke because he had 290 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, a 127.1 passer rating, 43 rushing yards, and a game-winning drive when he's playing the game that means the most to him other than probably like a playoff and a Super Bowl game. But as far as a regular season game goes, playing in Atlanta is Taylor Heinicke's best moment of his career, at least for him personally. Doing this in your hometown has to mean so much for him, and I'm so glad for him because he gets to probably hang out with his family and celebrate everybody that's still in Atlanta and all of that. I'm just like how I'm happy that we didn't lose to the Falcons in my city as well, Atlanta. Taylor Heinicke's even happier because it was his day today. I'm just a fan. And also, I like the fact that when we were walking through the tunnel at the end of the game, y'all can go look it up, the team looked way more relieved than they looked excited. Like, nobody was really celebrating like that. They were more so just like, man, we barely made it out of that one. Nobody's walking around like, yeah, we beat one of the worst teams in the NFL barely. Thank goodness nobody was walking around with that mentality because that would have made me mad even after a dub. So thank goodness everybody's being a realist and knows that we barely made it out of that alive. Also, we need to watch out because like right now, we're literally Daryl Roberts away from Troy Apke having to play in games. Benjamin St. Juste with concussions, other guys getting hurt, Torrey McTyer banged up at a certain point. We're Daryl Roberts away from Troy Apke having to play, maybe even start for us. Hopefully everybody can get back healthy. And Kendall Fuller's been so bad, man, I don't even know what to say about him. And shouts out to Taylor Heinicke, J.D Mckessic, Terry McLaurin, all 3 like almost co-MVPs for the reason that we're not 0-4. We should literally be 0-4 without those 3 guys right there, honestly. And at the end of the day, again, shouts out to Taylor Heinicke. He still doesn't necessarily look like the long-term answer for us, but I hope he's like a permanent quarterback on this roster as like a backup. I don't want to talk about Malik Willis and all of those guys too much, but the best case scenario to me is to go get a Malik Willis, Matt Corral in the draft, groom them to be your franchise quarterback. Taylor Heinicke is your starter until then, and he's also one of the best backups probably in NFL history that it can win in doubt come in and win you a game when you need it. But again, I don't necessarily feel like Taylor Heinicke is a long-term answer. Granted, this is not his fault. The defense has been historically bad in some ways, and I don't like talking about this after what Taylor Heinicke did today, but again, for the reasons I've already given y'all, the negatives from this game, it wasn't a perfect game, is the reason why he may not be the long-term answer. But he's definitely this season, he's definitely right now. And honestly though, when was the last time we've scored 30 points or more twice within a 3-week period? Like, when was the last time we've done that, if ever? Like, has it even been since my lifetime? But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. And it's funny too, because I'm on Twitter, even Colin Cowherd, not a Burgundy and Gold fan at all. I even believe he was one of the people that was saying Chase Young was overrated coming out of the draft. I may be wrong on that, but he tweeted out that Chase Young call is literally worst call of the year. Like, that call was ridiculous. Also, just to let y'all know before we go, us having 412 yards today is the second most that we've had since the start of 2020. Only behind the 464 we had against Detroit last season. A game we ended up losing too, because, you know, Matt Ryam sold the bag. Chase Young, stupid penalty. It was just stupid. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. I went way longer than I thought I would. I'm already at the 58-minute and 3-second mark as far as recording. I don't know how much is gonna be when I'm done editing this, but it's 7:25 p.m. I've been talking for an hour. My voice is halfway gone again. I'll be doing the post-game live stream tomorrow where y'all can call in and all of that, so stay tuned for that. I'm also gonna come out with my video behind the scenes of all the pictures I took with everybody that was there, us cheering them on, and videos, all of that type of stuff, us talking trash after the win and all of that at the stadium. So yeah, man, y'all stay tuned for both of those things tomorrow. I'm gonna try to get this video out as soon as possible. Hopefully it'll be out before 10 p.m. Again, it's 7:26 p.m. right now, but I'm already at the 58-minute and 42-minute mark. Whew, boy, I didn't know I was gonna end up talking this long. But man, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. More content coming. Please like this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Shouts out to the Burgundy and Gold fans. We traveled very well. We were pretty deep out there, man. Great experience. I can't wait to do it again. But we only play the Falcons like once every 4 years. This is our first time beating them since 2003. That is crazy. But yeah, man, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Please like this video. Definitely leave a like. And of course, man, shouts out to everybody that supports the channel. Shouts out to all of my new subscribers that we ran into y'all at the stadium. Shouts out to all of y'all. Shouts out to everybody that's already been here. The movement is strong. I had on my They Nervous shirt and my They Nervous mask, but I couldn't even wear it with a straight face because I was just as nervous as the Falcons fans were. There was never a point in that game where I was confident in our ability to win the game, even after we went up with 36 seconds left, because we almost lost there too. But yeah, man, shouts out to all of my sponsors. Shouts out to everybody that donates to the channel, everybody that just supports the channel in general. But also shouts out to my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now. Man, I really appreciate y'all. Man, I gotta go get something to eat while I'm editing this. I'm dying, man. I need something to drink, something to eat. Need to get my voice back. But man, I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.